Hey, good morning, good afternoon. Welcome to Talking Tech. My name is Shawn Walsh. I'm your Emerging Services and Technologies Librarian, and with me is...
I'm Charley. I'm the Guiding Ohio Learning Coach here at the Mass Public Library.
And if you've never joined us before, Talking Tech is where we take your questions live, and if we can't answer them, we'll get back to you, but otherwise, we try to answer them live, and we also talk about news stories and technology and science that we find interesting. So... Let's see. You want to go ahead and get started with one, Charley?
I guess I can go ahead and get started with one.
All right, I'm going to share out the stream real quick.
Okay.
So feel free to ask questions anytime in any of the chats. We're on YouTube and Facebook and Twitch. X is being strange, so we're not streaming live anymore on X.
All right. So I guess the kind of started off with a car thing. So if you didn't see, over the last week, Tesla announced two of autonomous vehicles, the robo-taxi and the it was something else, but I remember seeing these kind of weird but interesting looking designs, but they are estimated to be a cheaper alternative to the already Tesla models that they have, and that they are starting at about 30,000. There should be starting under about 30,000.
Under 30,000.
Now, the only thing is, it's completely autonomous, so you have no control of the vehicle at all. But these are still in early, testing phases, as they've talked. So we'll see how it rolls out. We'll see how the robo van rolls out as well. But I could see it maybe becoming somewhat huge. I just don't know if it's like within. I don't know if we're ready for.
If we're ready there,
autonomous yet. Even a lot of the skepticism in this article was about.
Well,
is it truly ready for the? Is
it truly ready? My other thing is I'm still staring this out. I do think it's somewhat funny that. Tesla just ran into an issue with their self-driving cars and limited visibility issues areas. So foggy and things actually hit someone recently. So, what questions do you have, Melanie?
One, is this going to be like the perfect thing that since there are not that many Ubers out in the rural areas that you can now get an autonomous van?
Autonomous Uber?
Yes.
Theoretically, yes.
But then my question with that is, because it seems like autonomous Ubers would be great for more, again, rural areas. But then, if they're going on street lines and like all those things that they use for autonomous vehicles, how are they going to do that? Because you think about the roads around here, and not that many of them have.
Some of them don't. Most of them have a center line, but a lot of them don't have the edge lines because the edge line is a field or a drainage area or whatever. Yeah, that's the interesting thing. We were. So while I was away, I was on a little bit of a jaunt out of state. There was a Cybertruck at the location where we were at. And so we were kind of talking about the Cybertruck and stuff. And one of the things that, and I've got to nail this down a little bit, is that for some of the self-driving things, if you want to self-drive outside of highways, and I have to confirm this or not, but it's possible Tesla is charging for that service for the self-driving features outside of major highways. And I think that's where they use a mapping software to then map like roads like where I live, where there's no lines whatsoever, or near me where the lines on the edges aren't there because it is, drainage areas.
Well, I'm thinking no one can take me to where I live because my development doesn't have any lines on any of the roads.
No, what it would have to is like base its driving on the width of your development, and assume that it has to be on this half of the paved area.
But then, when the snow starts to creep in the winter, like, do you only have autonomous vehicles in good weather? And like in Northeast Ohio, there's no Uber autonomous van from November to April because the roads are cruddy.
Well, that is a good question. Autonomous vehicles. I wish we had you mic'd. Autonomous vehicles. I don't know what the statistics are for inclement weather, like how well they do, because just rain itself can distort the roadway. I know that my vehicle has some lane assistance built into it. and complains because I have a snow buildup on the radar. It's kind of like radar, the radar on the front of it, and it can't see the road, and so it turns it off. So autonomous driving couldn't necessarily just like stop. That would be bad. So yeah, there's so many questions out there for this. Now, like in major cities, I could see this as this is what we saw in science fiction movies in the 70s and 80s, where the autonomous vehicle pulls up, picks up the person, they say the destination, or it's already been programmed in there. They go to the destination person, door opens, person gets out. You know, like currently in Japan, you don't open your own door; they're all automated. So the taxi pulls up to you, the door automatically opens, you get into the taxi, the door automatically closes, and you go to your destination with a driver. But that's not far off from where they're at.
Just so many questions.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions about autonomous vehicles. I mean, there's a part of me who's interested in the sheer factor of I've been to places with many vehicles that are for hire that may or may not be legal vehicles for hire, just jamming into every single crevice in the airport and all over the place. And it was an utter nightmare. And I don't know how there's not more accidents. So just slimming that down and also creating availability. There are parts of cities that is very difficult to get transportation. You can't just hail a cab because they're just not there. And so that's when Uber and some of Lyft and Uber and all those things became very popular. Some of those areas were being served better. Some just aren't because it's not in the driver, the Uber driver, the Lyft driver's best interest financially to cover some of those areas because they might get one fare, two fares, and it may not be in their best interest. So with automated vehicles, there's a lot less, vested interest. The vehicle drives,
Yeah, the vehicle comes, gets you, takes you wherever you need to, and then go home. That's
Yeah.
really about it.
Yeah, you're not taking a person away from other things like a human driver would be in this instance. So that's a good story, Charlie.
Yeah.
So again, if you've never joined us before, this is Talking Tech. We talk about technology news stories, but we also answer your technology questions, and we do them after the fact. By the way, this also goes up on our podcast as a single contained podcast. So if you want to listen to it later, you could. So Apple is coming out with some new products, as they tend to do quite frequently. But this is the one I found interesting. So the FDA approved Apple AirPods, so they're earbuds, to be used as hearing aids. So essentially, you buy the new, it's not the current ones, it's the ones that are just coming out. You buy the new AirPods. You put them in your ear, and your phone, in combination with the AirPods, acts as a hearing aid. So if you had a lot of hearing issues, whether it's people who have trouble hearing in noisy rooms or people who just have hearing because of volume, not being able to hear sound whatsoever because of hearing damage, that's what these are. So you could see more and more folks going around with earbuds in, thinking they're listening to music, but in reality, they're listening to you. I'm kind of astounded that this has taken a while for this to kind of come through. Because one of the features about like my phone, and my phone's several years old, is I could take a pair of earbuds, put them into my phone, and it runs a hearing test on me. And I know I have hearing loss. I know that for sure. And what it does is it adjusts my phone to match where my hearing loss is and helps kind of alleviate some of that. So it makes it easier for me to hear a phone call. It makes it easier for me to hear music through my phone. This technology, I mean, we talked about it in a Talking Tech like a couple of years ago, actually, because my phone's not new by any stretch of the imagination. So this technology for the adaptation of the phone to the person's ability to hear has been around for quite a while. It's the FDA approved, this is now a hearing aid thing is fairly new. So I'm kind of excited. I'm hoping it's not just Apple, that the other manufacturers can get on board with this. There's definitely going to be some technology requirements. If you get your earbuds off of, say, a very, very low discount retailer that shows up in many ads online, I'm not going to mention their name, but you know what it is and begins with a T. They're probably not going to be FDA approved. But if you bought something from a reputable company outside of Apple, I'm hoping that will be also something that is coming along fairly soon.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I got another question.
Okay, Melanie has another question. I'm going to repeat them just in case she's not getting picked up since she doesn't have a mic on her right now.
So I've heard people say that some of the Medicare plans don't cover hearing aids.
Okay.
So is this a financial thing? Because if you can just buy, I mean, I realize the AirPods are not inexpensive, but if you can do that and it functions as a hearing aid as opposed to not having your hearing aid costs covered.
Honestly, when I was doing my research on this, it wasn't mentioned about the cost of necessarily the hearing aids and this being a low cost alternative. It was actually more lower. Yeah. It was more of the angle of the stigma of a hearing aid versus the stigma of an earbud. So people were more willing to put a earbud in and use that than they were to actually have a traditional hearing aid. And you have to imagine that the generations that are now coming to the point where they may need hearing assistance, are generations who were used to having earbuds. Figure the first set of earbuds came out in the early 80s and became very popular, the wired ones, 80s and 90s. And then we had our first wireless in 20, probably, I would say probably around 2000, 2001, something like that. Sorry about coughing in the mic.
Well, so since you're talking about the AirPod 2 Pro 2s, is
2.
what they are.
Yeah, what are they at?
$250.
That's way cheaper than a hearing aid.
Right, that's it. Because I've heard a number of people talk about how expensive hearing aids
Yeah,
are.
hearing aids, my understanding, are several $100s, and getting them fit and all that stuff. For custom fit and all of that. Where in this case, the AirPods are the AirPods. They do a pretty good job of fitting in your ears. I don't know about as a hearing aid. There's part of me who's interested in testing out when they come out with an Android version.
Well, then that would probably be either Google or Samsung, maybe. That would try to do it.
I apologize for the cough. It's a very Samsung-y thing.
Because they're into the
Yeah.
health.
So again, feel free. Sorry about coughing. Feel free to ask any questions in the chat. Melanie's asking some questions in the background. We don't have her mic'd up, so I'm going to try to repeat them as best I can remember as we go. You can always type them in the chat too, Melanie, which wouldn't hurt either. So, Charlie, what do you got for a story?
I mean, it gets kind of going off of your Apple part here, but more onto the fix-it-yourself type thing.
Yeah, we're all for iFixit stuff. And
so iFixit, the company that has been really pushing right to repair and everything else lately, has come out with a new tool for your iPhone fixers out there.
Okay.
So the iPhone 16 was the first battery that, or the first iPhone battery that used a electronically bondable adhesive.
Oh.
That you cannot, unless you want to destroy the battery and possibly as part of the case for, you have to use a 9-volt battery with alligator clips to debond the adhesive. Okay. Now, iFixit came out with a nice little tool that will help you with it, and it uses a USB cable.
So basically, it's a USB alligator setup.
Exactly. And that's all it really is. But this makes it so you don't have to take your chances with a 9-volt battery. Which I thought was cool. So they're kind of they finally came out with just a way to do it. But I think it's just nice because especially for me. Yeah,
it's this cool arms race between the people who want to fix things and the people who want to keep people from fixing things. And one's going to get a new tool, and the other person's going to find a way to block it. Because the right to repair, was a quintessential thing. Back in the day, you had a car, you had a whatever, you could generally fix it. As time has gone on, it's becoming harder and harder to fix. In fact, one of the biggest right to repair cases are out there right now, kind of things going back and forth, is with John Deere. So a company who has been around since, plows pulled by animals, is having, a major issue with people who want to go in and fix their combines, their tractors, their other kinds of John Deere implements. And John Deere saying, no, you got to take it to an authorized representative. And the farmer's going, no, I can do this. If you ever met a farmer, the answer is no, I can do this is generally their answer to everything because they can fix anything. because they're good at it, and not being allowed to do that is not a cool thing for them. So it is fascinating to watch this right to repair and see how it kind of evolves.
Like throws it around
So it's funny. We've got mobile phones, and we got tractors.
Yes,
on both sides of the right to repair kind of thing.
Exactly.
So it is fascinating.
It's insane the broad range that we have here.
Yep. So since I'm a bit under the weather, I'm going to talk about an under the weather story. So there's a Norwegian, I'm going to say that 3 times fast, company called No Isolation, and they've developed a robot that takes the child's place in class, serving it as their eyes, ears, and voice, so they can stay connected with their classmates while they're home ill. Now, I'm not talking about just like a regular cold like I have. Say it's a child receiving some kind of chemotherapy or some other kind of things where they have to stay home because it's safer home, or they're at a hospital receiving some sort of treatment. They can still connect in with this basically robot that sits in their chair, and interact with their peers, interact with the teacher, interact with everything. It's more immersive than video. Basically everything, you get everything but smells, which in some cases is probably okay. But you can see your classmates. You can talk to your classmates. They can see you. You're kind of looking through the eyes of the robot. For some of these children who are going through major medical procedures, one of the hardest things is the isolation. They're so far removed from their friends, from their school, from what was normal to them before, that this is one step in helping. Is it perfect? Probably not, but it's a pretty good step. We all experienced virtual learning. If you had a kid in the last couple of years, and there's no question. I can tell you, virtual gym was an experience for me. Not being an athletic person, to help my son do virtual gym. I even had a friend help me out, and it was, we were trying hard to get the gym class done. So yeah, I'm kind of fascinated by this. And I do believe in the connection and the draw of having, a child to be able to virtually attend school while having to be removed for medical reasons or other reasons that just keeps them away, So what else you got?
I guess kind of to build up on it, because I'm such a Lego nerd over here. So back, I think about a month ago, during the F1 British Grand Prix at Silverstone, they revealed a McLaren P1 Lego set through the Technic line.
Okay.
Along with that, a 1-to-1 scale replica of the car.
1-to-1 scale replica.
Yes.
Of a McLaren.
Of a functioning McLaren P1, 1-to-1, and it was powered by 768 Lego electric motors. And it actually exceeded 40 miles an hour. And
40 miles an hour, Lego motors.
The entire circuit of Silverstone.
Silverstone circuit. So
yes.
It had to have traditional tires.
Yes, it had traditional tires and wheels. It had about the same steering wheel, everything else.
Okay.
And it was driven by F1 driver Lando Norris.
All right. That's
which
really
I found was quite interesting.
That is cool. That's cool. So yeah, 1-to-1 Lego. Probably not as aerodynamic as a McLaren because of the
the pieces,
the brick pieces, but 40 miles an hour is not bad.
Yeah, and mind you, it was not done by any other motor. It was by a Lego, just the Lego electric motors. That's what drove it the entire way.
That's really cool. I like that.
Kind of brightens up it a little bit.
I'm going to jump into a very, very library story, and people are going to probably listen to this story and go, why hasn't this happened before? So Amazon is finally releasing a color Kindle.
Really?
Yep.
After this long?
Yep. So color e-ink has been around for a very long time. And if you're not aware, Ohio, specifically Northeast Ohio, is kind of a hotbed for liquid crystal displays, e-ink, and all of that. Kent State University and their liquid crystal engineering department, and Kent Displays, and there's a lot of boogie board, a lot of different entities all around Kent. We are like the hotbed for LED, LCD kind of development. So this has been around. I've seen this like at a Kent thing, at a university a while ago, like 90s. But Amazon is finally coming on board, and it's the Kindle ColorSoft. So ColorSoft is a company, and it features colors. So you're going to have full color illustrations. it's still an e-ink Kindle. Okay.
Mhm.
So it is not a tablet per se. So it doesn't have apps. It is primarily an e-reader.
Mhm.
It can do some minor things, but it's really just an e-reader. It's not that much different than the Paperwhite or any of those, except
This one has
color. So if you value the color illustrations in what you're reading, now, for a fiction book, I don't really see this jumping out too much at me.
I'm seeing more comic books and stuff like that.
Comic books, graphic novels. Sorry about the cough again. Comic books, graphic novels, nonfiction.
Mhm.
So if I was reading nonfiction, and because you can obviously,
Oh yeah.
and I needed a color illustration, this would be handy.
Yeah, you'd be able to see it instead of, oh, this is a black and white image.
Yeah, it's a black and white of this thing. It's a black and white of this pie chart. It all looks like pie to me.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's basically. So this is kind of a big step, So if you're in the market in this upcoming holiday season, you may want to look into a color e-ink display Kindle if that's the direction you're going to go. If you're going to update your e-reader, or if you're getting an e-reader for the first time, this may be a technology you want to look into. If you are a person who likes nonfiction, graphic novels, things like that, if you are a fiction reader, you probably aren't going to see much of difference. And so just stick with something like a Paperwhite or one of the other intro Kindles.
Mhm.
So what else you got, Charlie?
Oh, what else do I got? How about actually, this could be.
I saw this article.
Yeah.
We were talking about
so
this.
Ford. So if you have any of Ford's electric vehicles and you have the Tesla supercharger adapter, preferably stop using it as soon as possible. As Ford has come out to say that it has seen, let's put it this way, that it has slowed down charging and has possibly damaged their charging ports by using the said adapter.
Not surprised.
So keep that in mind if you do use the Tesla supercharger adapter for your Ford e-vehicle of any kind. Now,
Lightning.
Ford will send you a free replacement of that adapter that's supposed to be improved and everything else that's supposed to stop it from supposedly damaging the port.
Do they supply the original adapter?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So they started offering it to, actually it was free before,
Mm-hmm.
and they just handed them out to
Mm-hmm.
their EV owners in February.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's just telling them to really please stop.
Yeah.
Please stop. Or please try to get in contact with them to send
one.
you a new one.
Mm-hmm.
Because I guess the design that they had before was damaging their charging
Interesting.
ports. So that's something to take into consideration if you do have a Ford e-vehicle.
Interesting. Huh. So yeah, going back to my weekend with the Tesla truck and stuff that we were talking to the owner and some things. So we couldn't find the roundup with the Tesla truck, but we did find a roundup of performance and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was the Ford Lightning,
Mm-hmm.
the Rivian, and I can't think of the other manufacturer of like a truck, EV truck. But interestingly enough, through all of the challenges, towing capacity, all that stuff,
Mm-hmm.
what do you think came out on top?
I mean, through all the promotional stuff I've seen too much of, I would dare say probably I don't want to say Cybertruck, but it probably is the Cybertruck.
Well, the Cybertruck wasn't in the running. It wasn't in the running in this one. These were the EVs that were out just prior to the Cybertruck.
I mean, I would dare say probably the Ford.
Actually, the Ford was the lowest.
Oh, of course.
The Rivian actually performed the best in towing capacity.
I guess if you're a gasoline engine company coming into the EV market, you probably will skip on the load capacity for a minute until maybe the next iteration, because they're still trying to figure out the batteries and things.
Yeah,
I think they're more going for range and not towing capacity.
Well, it was an interesting thing was towing capacity and range were combined because your towing capacity changed your range drastically. But in the reviews, so I'm waiting for the next review to come out where it's actually the Rivian, the Cybertruck, and something else. I don't know if it's going to be the Ford. I think it's the third EV. I can't remember right now. But kind of fascinating to see through.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I guess as you're talking about that,
there's cough again.
So GM came out with more statistics about their newer Sierra EV. So another.
I wonder if that was the other one in the
EV truck. Well, there's also the Chevy. Oh, what about the Hummer?
Oh, it was the Hummer.
Hummer.
That was the other one.
Yep.
Because I knew it was a GM product, and Hummer's
Hummer.
GM.
So GM came out with new pricing and range
Okay.
statistics for their new 2025 GMC Sierra EV
Mm-hmm.
Denali. 'Cause
Denali.
it's specific to the Denali.
Well, yeah.
They lowered the starting price, which is still kind of ridiculous, at $91,995.
Okay.
And including destination charges, but no other fees, supposedly. So there could be some more fees tacked on to make it around 100.
Okay.
But the max range option supposedly lets you go up to 460 miles on a single charge. That's what it says. So I think we're slowly seeing more and more EVs make it a little bit farther, because now we're about 100 and so almost over what original ranges were before.
Yeah. Oh, that's
So
cars, gas tanks will go
mhm.
like 450.
450. Yeah, like is a fair amount for a
relatively
four-cylinder sedan, not a crossover SUV. Four-cylinder sedan should get you about 400 at 30 miles, 29 to 30 miles to the gallon.
I would say I get about 300 out of my 2004 Honda Accord. So I'm like debating, like looking at that, it seems like the range has been getting slightly better as it goes.
Yeah, there's definitely some vehicles that you can buy extended battery packs and things and get a lot more range out of.
Yeah.
The one thing I'm finding interesting, we talked about this a couple talking texts ago. I did a little investigation on my own again. Is grid capacity. They just don't have enough three-phase and some of that stuff for the grid capacity for some of these places. And so you can't get a super fast charge unless you go to a supercharger of some sort. You have to do it at home overnight in a trickle charge, which is doable, at 220. I don't know how many amps.
Yeah.
So here's a good one. Being close to a nuclear power plant, and my background growing up with people in the nuclear power industry. So Microsoft has made a deal with 3 Mile Island. So 3 Mile Island is the American nuclear near meltdown. It was not a meltdown. It was a near meltdown. It never truly melted down, but they did bring it offline. So they made a deal to restart 3 Mile Island. It's Unit 2. So Unit 2 was in operation until 2019. So Unit 1 was the one that, was shut down. Unit 2 is the one that was operating till 2019. So Microsoft made this deal with 3 Mile Island to bring up Unit 2 again. And Unit 2 will be supplying electricity specifically for their data centers in Pennsylvania. And they're putting a data center within the region of, because you got those transmission lines. Like the power coming from Perry isn't coming here. It's going, quite a ways on transmission lines. So it's not local necessarily. And the interesting thing is Amazon and Google are also heavily investing in new nuclear reactors. So new technology nuclear reactors, like the nuclear reactors we've been operating for years and years and years. The NRC relicenses them and goes through a process. They go through outages. This is the newer style nuclear reactors. And so really, they're looking at these as providing power for their data centers. It's green power because it's not releasing CO2. Most of the nuclear fuel stays on premises. If you go up to Perry, they have, these bunkers that hold the fuel rods. They've never left the plant. It's still there, any of their spent stuff. And so, it's there, it's waiting, it's always available. And so they're investing heavily into this. But I found it fascinating that, they're going to call 3 Mile Island something different because it is being operated by a different entity. So the names will change. My dad worked for many years at 9 Mile in New York, a similar plant, and worked at Beaver Valley and a couple places around here as well.
I think you can tell you're not from Pennsylvania because you're calling it 3 Mile Island.
Correct.
Because everyone else just calls it TMI.
TMI, yes. So that's fascinating that they're moving that direction. So feel free to ask us any questions as you go. We'll answer your questions live if we can. Otherwise, we'll talk about news stories we find fascinating.
Yeah, like this one about your Rivian could look like Kit from Knight Rider this month.
Can Kit from Knight Rider? I want the theme music.
So, I guess there is going to be a Rivian update coming out sometime this month if it hasn't already come out, because this was posted on the 17th. But it's a part of their Halloween software update that they're pushing out to their vehicles, and it's not necessarily just Knight Rider or Kit. It's also Back to the Future.
Okay, the DeLorean.
Yeah, so the DeLorean from Back to the Future. They will come out with different modes. I don't know if there's any other different vehicles, so I'm wondering if this is like a universal partnership.
I want a flux
slightly.
capacitor as my background as my on my screen if I had a truck like
Not
that.
100% sure, but it's definitely interesting
That'd
nonetheless.
be cool.
Because that just means it's going to customize the light bars on the outside and all that cool
Yeah,
stuff. So,
absolutely.
which I found kind of fascinating myself.
You know, actually, I had talked to someone in law enforcement, and we were joking about the fact that the light bar in the hood of the original Knight Rider Kit car and car as well, which is the bad guy car, that tells you how nerdy I am, is illegal in just about every state because it's simulating a police light with you're not allowed to have red and things like that. So yeah, you're not allowed to do that. So it's kind of a bummer because I was like, I want to do that on a car. So that's cool.
Yeah,
that's cool. So when I was a kid, I always had this dream about putting up a space station and catching solar energy and directing it back down to Earth, because it always made sense to me as a kid that, you know, you build this giant solar array because there's never any clouds, there's never rain, and you just beam it back to Earth. You know, and that, you know, that thought process wasn't unique to me alone by any stretch of the imagination. But original thought process was that you put up these solar arrays, these big solar arrays, and you beam the power back down as microwave energy. Well, if you have a microwave in your house, you know what happens when microwave energy hits something with water in it. It turns to steam and cooks. And so, you know, the thought process of having all of these microwave beams coming back from space to Earth, you know, basically superheating water and any poor animal or plane that flew in between wasn't going to happen. That just wasn't going to happen. So that was the technology. And that was technology 80s, 90s, whatever. And so Caltech came back and kind of started thinking about this again. One, they're not going to do giant satellites. They're going to do small satellites. But two, they're going to be using basically an infrared laser. So not necessarily infrared like your infrared heater, but an infrared laser to beam the power they catch with their small satellites down to certain locations or variable locations. So say you're in the middle of the desert. There's no transmission lines near you. The likelihood of you getting, you know, gasoline or diesel or any kind of fuel for a generator is pretty low. Theoretically, you could have a geosynchronous, one of those, satellite beaming electricity to your house. The same as you would get your DirecTV and Dish Network. Same setup.
Interesting.
Yeah. Basically, it's an array that's just catching that laser. We've been doing lasers between us and the moon for years for like measurements and things like that. So similar concept. So you could have your own geostationary satellite powering your house 24 hours a day because infrared pierces through clouds, pierces through rain, goes right to where it needs to go, and won't microwave a poor bird who flies in between. Because that was always our joke for like April Fool's Day is, you know, when are you going to make wireless power? When we can not walk in front of it without getting cooked. So this has some potential, you know. So infrared, similar to the infrared that, you know, back in the day, well, still even today, that we use to change the channel. So pretty cool stuff.
Yes,
that's Caltech, and the big investor is the guy who founded Robinhood, the social investing platform.
Oh yeah.
So he's dumping a ton of money after I don't know if he left the business because he was in Twitter at one point too. So yeah,
he's
a lot of people left Twitter. Yeah. They, you know, a lot of people leave every company, you know.
Yeah.
All right. So what else you got?
How about just a really odd one?
I'm just reading the headline now.
So the new Alien movie, so Alien Romulus, is getting a VHS release.
I'm kind of excited.
Now, the reason why they decided to do this, and with collaboration with the actual director of the movie, is because it's meant to celebrate the 45 years since the first Alien movie.
Yeah.
Which conveniently in this article said franchise first chess burst into theaters. 45 years ago.
Just in the theaters. That's
So now this will actually be done in a 4:3 aspect ratio.
funny. Of course,
So within the standards of what a VHS
got to
would
be
have been.
VHS. Yeah.
And it's even coming in its own little exclusive sleeve. Now it's a
Little
limited
slipcase,
edition.
yeah.
It's a limited edition.
Oh,
So
people are
it's
so
not going
gonna
to be a
snap
mass,
that up, yeah.
It's not going to be a mass sale of it,
Hmm.
but you can buy it in a VHS version if you would like.
That's awesome.
Which I found kind of fascinating.
It's so
So
awesome.
is this like Taylor Swift doing vinyl?
The vinyl came back way before Swift came back.
Yeah, vinyl's made. She's
She-
big into vinyl.
Yes.
Just about all musicians have some affinity for vinyl because the sound of vinyl is vastly different than the sound of a CD, where the vinyl is still analog, where the CD is a digital version, and
Mhm.
there's a sound quality to that warm. They always say warm. The word they use is warm for vinyl.
Yeah. Vinyl really started making actually a comeback in 2019. Like
Oh, it was well before that.
Maybe. I don't know. I saw more and more vinyl slowly come out more in 19 right before the pandemic happened. And then it really sprouted when 2020 happened.
I would say early 2000s is when I started seeing a lot of vinyl, like picture discs and stuff like that at retail stores.
Mhm.
So not like your vinyl only kind of
Oh,
record
yeah.
shop. Like
Not a
we have
record
one in
shop.
my hometown, and like all he does is vinyl, and that's all he's ever done. So if you need like a copy of like the Beatles' White Album, you go see him and you got it. This is like retailers like Hot Topic and
Best Buy.
Spencer's, Best Buy.
Mhm.
Best Buy has a lot of vinyl now again. Walmart.
Yeah.
Walmart
Well,
has vinyl.
I think the big thing for me was I didn't see much vinyl. Like it was like this small little section you saw
Mhm.
at Walmart, and then
Yeah.
like once 2019, 2020 happened, that's when you saw like
I-
it expand
Something
out
with
more.
the pandemic caused people to go gaga over vinyl again.
Mhm.
It was there. It was never. It was
I mean, I
never
guess it's even
gone.
the same with tapes too, because tape.
Yeah, we
decks
did a
are
story
slowly
about
coming
cassette
back.
tapes coming
Yeah.
back. But there's a.
donated a cassette tape today.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Somebody donated a cassette tape. There's a quality. There is a quality of analog, but that also means that your cables have to be up to snuff too, and your preamps and all that stuff,
Yeah.
and your tubes. Like I will totally agree, a tube amp for a guitar is a totally different experience than say a transistor amp.
Mhm.
It's a totally different experience, totally different sound, totally different quality. It's fascinating. Is again earlier I said I have hearing issues. The sound from some of that vinyl stuff sounds so much nicer to me with my hearing issues than it does with the analog or the digital stuff.
So then, what's the point of bringing the VHS back? If it's
Nostalgia.
only kitsch?
It's mainly
Nostalgia.
It's mainly a kick of nostalgia,
Yeah.
and for the
That
celebration
that
of the
weird collector,
anniversary as
yeah.
well.
Because I mean every home in the 80s just about had a copy of Alien or Aliens, mostly likely Aliens, the sequel. Had that. And I mean guaranteed, if you were sitting and you had cable in the 80s and 90s and you you were flipping through channels, Aliens was going to be on something, whether it was a HBO or a Cinemax or Showtime or like TBS, greatly reduced in scariness on TBS, but it was there. USA Network. I mean, like it was there. You could find it. It's like Conan the Barbarian and the Beastmaster was on.
Yeah.
Wherever you could go, it was always on. There was never a
Yeah.
time you couldn't turn on a TV without seeing one of those on
Yeah,
something.
I would say Alien was definitely a staple horror series for a lot of people.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's why I'm thinking because of this, that's why they're.
I mean,
re-releasing it.
Aliens was one of my first absolute, loves of something scary. When I first saw it, I was so enthralled with that movie because it was scary, but it was scary in a sci-fi, almost Hitchcock-like way.
Mhm.
It was so cool. Yeah, it was so cool.
Yeah.
I can't, I can gush about it forever, but it was just one of those cinematic kind of like lines in the sand, like The Thing and some of those other movies. There was just this line in the sand and we went over it and now we're something different. I can say that about a movie that isn't scary. Like Titanic was a line in the sand, and there's movies after that, Avatar, Star Wars, whatever. There's these lines in the sand kind of movies.
Yeah.
So I like the nostalgia of it. I mean, I could see it because I still have my copies of Alien,
Mm-hmm.
Aliens, Alien 3, Alien Resurrect. Oh my, I do have a lot of them. I'm a movie guy. I like movies,
Mhm.
all kinds of movies.
No
That's
problem
cool.
with that.
So I'll do a movie. I'll do a sci-fi kind of thing.
Go for it.
One of my sleeper hit movies actually was a movie, and of course the name escapes me right now, but it's about a spaceship that lands on Europa and they find alien life, but it's kind of like a survival horror movie.
Okay.
I think it's like the Europa Project. I can't remember for sure.
Mhm.
But so we launched it, the Europa Clipper. Sounds like something that's out of New Hampshire or Maine. The Europa Clipper. It's going to go out and catch some cod there. We'll travel 1.8 billion miles to Europa. And Europa, what makes it special is it's a moon orbiting Jupiter, but we're pretty darn sure that underneath the crust of ice is a vast ocean. And when there's oceans and there's a large body like Jupiter that can create some tectonic volcanic kind of things, we're thinking that there may be life. And so the whole point of the Europa Clipper in 2030 is going to arrive, and we're going to find out what is potentially underneath the ice on Europa, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Because there was organic material when, I don't know if it was Voyager or if it was one of the other probes that went through, had flown around Saturn and had done a flyby Europa. And Europa has these geysers, kind of they're ice volcanoes, essentially. And they detected organic matter in what was being sprayed up. Now, organic matter, remind you, organic is carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Gasoline is organic. Crude oil is organic by definition. It's petroleum. So, but organic matter, was being detected. So that's cool. I'm excited. I love these space things. I love these probes and whatnot. What you got?
So we want to talk about the new toy.
The new toy
everyone's talking about. So there's now, from the creator of the self-transforming Transformers.
Okay, so they have
so the
Optimus, Megatron,
and Megatron,
and they also have they don't have Bumblebee yet. Optimus, Megatron, and who's the leader of the Dinobots?
Oh, I know what you're talking about. I don't remember the name, of course.
I'm losing my nerd card right now.
Anyway, so
Grimlock.
Yeah, there you go, Grimlock. So there is a new toy.
Okay.
And it's very, I would say iconic.
It's iconic.
Toy Story's Buzz Lightyear.
All right.
They have come out with a Buzz Lightyear toy that is supposed to move around and act like the toy from the movies.
Act like Buzz Lightyear.
Of course.
Confused Buzz or like Woody and Buzz?
I'm assuming Woody and Buzz.
Okay.
So I wouldn't be surprised if not even a couple months or a year from now that we'll see a Woody and it will somehow interact with each other. But for right now, it's only Buzz Lightyear. Now obviously the laser doesn't actually function like an actual laser.
Bummer.
I know. But also note that is also $600 worth of Toy Story.
But
Buzz
if
Lightyear.
you're a Disney fan
I know.
and you're a Toy Story fan, you're just
really
that's like, kids did not buy Optimus, Grimlock, and Megatron. Like people my age, like it's gonna be 46, Gen X and older millennials and some boomers bought those toys. There's no question. And their kids have never seen them.
They never will.
Probably never will. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's interesting. Supposedly it's got 23 servo motors. That supposed to be and working buttons.
Got to have the buttons.
From the third movie where he actually gets turned into Spanish mode.
He's got a Spanish mode.
Spanish mode.
That's one of my favorite parts is when he gets flipped into Spanish mode. That is so cool.
So and then plus supposedly first of its kind micro servos to move the eyes and mouth. Now, I know Disney has been really big into animatronics. They've always kind of surpassed a lot of people in the
the Imagineers do some crazy awesome stuff.
So I could see Disney trying to imaginate a little bit in this Buzz Lightyear toy to make sure it actually seems like Buzz Lightyear
like
from the movie.
Between them and the Jim Henson Company, and now Jim Henson Company is part of Disney, but like, back in the day, it was this awesomeness of seeing who could outdo the other one with like animatronic and cool puppety kind of things. Yeah.
Yeah.
With Five Nights at Freddy's,
absolutely.
Well, Jim Henson actually did make the creatures for that too, because the
Henson
Henson
Company.
creature.
I was
the
gonna say, not
creature
Jim
shop makes
Henson.
it. No,
Henson Company
Well, I
did.
know the
It'll be
creature
Brian,
shop.
and I can't think of what the daughter's name is. Let's see. We got a little more time, and feel free again to ask your questions as we go. Well, let's go with a Starship one. Or apologies for coughing again.
Starliners?
So Elon,
Oh,
our
boy.
good old friend Elon.
All of our good old friend Elon.
Good old friend Elon. So actually, they kind of did something pretty cool. So as they have been launching up reusable rockets, one of the kind of things that is kind of the holy grail of reusable rockets is getting essentially the booster, what lifts the whole pod off of the ground, to get it back and recover it, refuel it, and use it again.
Mm.
So they've had some success, basically, landing the solid rocket booster kind of thing onto a launch pad. But some of them have fallen down and explosions and things
Yeah.
like that. Badness.
The typical test.
So just, I think last week,
Mhm.
they had tested out where the booster's coming back down, so from outer space is landing back down. Instead of trying to land it, which takes a lot of technology to make this thing land and stay up, it's like trying to get a toothpick to drop straight.
Yeah.
They landed it, but they landed it where there's a gantry in it, caught it.
Grabbed it.
Yep. And securely
Smart,
caught it
actually.
in a way that, if we can do this, and we do this a lot, we can now catch these things and reuse them.
Mhm.
I mean, and it seems really simple. That's what kind of like my brain just went, why didn't we do this before? But apparently there was a reason why we couldn't do it before. But yeah. So again, Elon, what's this? It's not Blue Origin. It's SpaceX. So SpaceX, their booster rocket, snatching it out of the air essentially. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And it was successful in the first try, which is, a credit to the engineers from SpaceX and everybody involved. Pretty darn cool.
Mm-hmm.
We like to pick on Elon, for various reasons. The Cybertruck, the tunnel in Las Vegas. There's all kinds of fun things to pick on. But it's just kind of cool, regardless, to see some kind of technology like this, and it goes awesome. And so it could be the next thing that helps us do more. So again, thank you for joining us. My name is Shawn Walsh. I'm your Emerging Services Technologies Librarian, and
I'm
with
Charley.
me was Charley, and back there was Melanie, our head of public services person. And this was Talking Tech, and thank you, and have a wonderful day. See you on the interwebs.